Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting session of MHQ's Foundation 101 podcast, where today I'm joined by the excellent Karim Gondour. Karim, good morning.
Good morning.
So Karim is the founder of Legacy Line. His entire job is about advising successful family in organizing their legacy and a lot of ancillary items around it, as I will explain, and none of these is more important than the family charter, the family constitution, the vision of the patriarch and the family put into writing, but then used on a day-to-day basis. So without further delay, Karim, we talk a lot about family charter, family constitution. What does it mean in your words?
Family governance is a family agreement between family members, and there's certain dynamics which we have usually in families, and certain dynamics when you usually have in a business. But when you combine both the family and the business, certain dynamics will come. And as we can see here, it's illustrated in different different ways the family will approach the family business. So somebody can be working in the family, somebody can be owner in the family business, and somebody can be just a family member, not being involved in the family business, but affected somehow. So a family charter or a family constitution is a written principle that regulates all these dynamics and regulate the relationship between the family and the family business.
Okay, so clearly some sort of intangible that at some stage the family defines that, look, that's the principle by which we abide. We just want to put them together so that it sticks us together over generation, right?
Exactly, it defines the common goals. First, do we have a common vision, common goals, we're going to work together? And second, how we're going to work together and what we're allowed or not allowed to do.
Yeah, okay,
And
very clear.
certain also highlights we're going to talk about in terms of governance.
Exactly. So now we understand what it is. What interests me is to talk, what are the benefits of first doing that exercise and then living by these principles which have been documented and to make them alive. So what are the benefits for you?
So definitely, first of all, do we want to work together? Because we inherited the business does not mean we want to work together. So it's a kind of reiterating the common goals and the common values of the family. If first, this new generation or the next generation, do we want to work together? And the second benefit would be how we're going to work together, decision making, how we're going to work together, what kind of and setting up basically the governance principles of how working together. And this will give us give each family member the ability to understand what is their duties and their rights in terms of in relationship to the family enterprise. What am I allowed to do, not allowed to do, and what can I ask for? And that take us to the third and main point, which is a very common issue in family businesses: communication. Usually what we see is family members who are working in the family business tend to know more than the passive family members who are outside. Having a proper governance will give an equal and fair share to everybody to be able to access the information related to the family enterprise, financial and non-financial issues. And then how do we make decisions? How to have a due, fair process of making decisions among family members on family issues and family business related issues. The group, how to work, how to have a teamwork together, and how to regulate that, and that's important. And with the governance, we're having a proper governance in place will dictate the way we select the next leader.
Yes.
And enhance the succession process. Without having that, there will be no succession. And that's usually we have the struggles we hear about. And then we have the section which separates the wealth. We have to differentiate between the private wealth and the family business. Typically, when you're in the first generation, the founding generation, uh, the founder wealth and the founder and the family business are one. When we have the second generation, it's important to differentiate between the two.
Yes,
Otherwise, we will have the struggle because people, the family members who are in the business, will end up using the family business resources for personal gains.
I understand.
Once you are outside, they will be complaining about that. So having a clear separation between those two is extremely important. And finally, something which usually founders don't do is they don't keep track of their decision making. They don't put minutes of meetings and records of how they're making decisions. Well, once we have the second generation and we have multiple owners and multiple stakeholders, or maybe the third generation, we need to keep track of how we took decisions, why we took them, and what the to-dos, what has to be done. So these kind of recording and fair way of making decisions and separating the family business from their personal wealth, something which is the first generation don't have to bother with because they are basically governing the business and it's one man show or one woman show. Now it's having multiple stakeholders will affect it.
Yeah.
We need to
You
have that.
You talked so clearly a vast array of potential benefit, and most of it is to avoid conflict. Yeah, because if you have a clear process and you know what avenues you need to follow to reach some sort of objective, then there is less potential for miscommunication, misunderstanding, and thus conflict. So very important within a family. What a discussion that we had off record for a couple of years already is how do these family constitution and family charter operate when now we have foundations that come in, and what is the impact of this foundation on these family charter and family constitution? Have you seen in your practice them being reinforced, or have people ceased using them? What is the dynamic there?
It's a great additional tool to have because first, we don't have it in the Middle East throughout the GCC. And the second issue in the Middle East, there is a contradiction between the applied law, which is the Islamic Sharia law, and the wishes of the founder and the family, what they state in their government. A good example, most of the families we deal with, they prefer not having a non-blood owners in the family enterprise.
Yes.
So by default, they want to exclude the in-laws. But yet, many of them want to adhere to Islamic Sharia law, and whoever gets what, they will end up getting, their fair economic compensation from the inheritance. When it comes to succession planning today in the Middle East, upon death of the family member, the spouse, who's non-family member, non-blood family member, will end up inheriting. He or she will end up, the in-law will end up inheriting shares into the family enterprise across the board,
Yep.
properties, companies, you name it. Now, with having these foundations, we can, and usually what we state in the charter that if this happened, the letter of wishes, we prefer, or it is our wishes that the in-laws will hand over back the shares for an amount or
But you are relying on goodwill of those people to abide
relying
by
on
the
exactly.
undertaking. Yeah.
Now we don't have to worry about that because
Okay.
now we can simply take all the shares, all the assets, and put them into this neutral zone, which is the foundation. And then from there, what we will have are beneficial ownership. And beneficial ownership, you can easily.
Yeah.
So from a Sharia point of view, economically, each one will be compensated the same way.
Yeah.
And legally, it will enhance the charter or the family constitution we agreed on.
So clearly, if I follow from what you just said, the opposite, and that was my next question. So nice segue. It's it seems to me that any potential food or challenge that you would have within the family, even if you had some sort of constitution, can be mitigated, if not completely removed, if foundation are used, typically in the example that you set, because you are not relying on individual to have a goodwill and to unilaterally agree to something. You are pretty much said, this is pre-decided because it's completely neutral and independent at arm's length. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And that basically will enhance the issue of succession planning and enhance the governance which the family agreed on. The set of
so so maybe I'll show you this. This is our interpretation of how a family charter could be designed. I completely removed all the people involved in the family because we didn't have time to draw them this afternoon. But often what you see is this. Often what you see is a patriarch that says, look, I want to make sure that things remain harmonious, and I have these assets and I want to do both what you explained, which is a family charter together with my families. I want them to buy in, I want them to carry that legacy, and I want to structure. And what we often do is do both. So we rely on Karim and his team to create this framework, this foundation, this family charter, which can have elements of governance and of allocation of assets, etc., but often goes much further into the soft stuff, etc. But here, what you see is that they actually can be combined in one. You can have some assets structured onto a foundation holding vertical, and then around that or linked to it, you can have your family charter. We can touch on internal governance and then some. Thus, my next question to you, Karim, is will having UAE Foundation as a GCC entity account for something in other GCC country? I'm particularly thinking of Saudi, because you do quite a lot of work with Saudi families, and topically, this example here has some KSC assets under it. So clearly, it has been done already. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely it has a lot of value. One, because it's an entity, legal entity, which is found within the GCC. We already saw a lot of structuring happening between UAE and Saudi Arabia in terms of family holding and so on, simply because the tools we have in UAE is more advanced from a legacy planning point of view. Mind you, in Saudi, there has been an initiative in the last few years to revamp their laws and so on and so forth. And it seems that they're heading in that direction. So I will not be surprised to see also Saudi Arabia developing a sort of trust foundation regime later on. Already they are pushing now for kind of free zones.
Yep.
And we know that this is almost ready. I mean, it was supposed to be launched next year. I don't know if the corona with the COVID-19 will delay it. So having this kind of entity in the GCC, definitely it will help out. Maybe in the early stages would be for non-movable assets.
Yeah.
But then movable and non-movable assets. So first we'll start with the companies, then maybe it will cascade to real estate.
Yeah, real estate is always a little bit trickier. In our experience at MHQ today, after 3 years of practicing foundations, we have structured every asset class in every GCC country. So real estate and companies, but real estate have always proved to be trickier. Typically in Oman, everything is easy. The moment you start to touch real estate, it's an issue. Same in Kuwait, same in Saudi Arabia. It's doable, but you need to be very, very careful. And it takes time to explain things to the government, but it works. It works. All right. So Karim, look, what you do is paramount to a number of families, and clearly a lot of families right now are thinking more about legacy planning. They are thinking more about organizing the dynamic around their families. And for this sort of work, they are in excellent hands with you and your team. And as we have discussed, family charter, family constitution, and foundation is not one or the other. If you want family unity, harmony, and growth over time, you actually need both. And for that, you have the two of us. So there you go. Karim, thank you very much. And I'll talk to you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Thank you for having me.